So welcome back, everyone. So you must be not grumpy after the lunch. So this morning we talk about patience, and also we started talking about the perseverance. And in the Ornament of Sutra by Maitreya, he says perseverance is the best among the whole range of virtues. When you cultivate it, you later succeed. And then by another Indian great master, Santara Kirti, in his middle way, every good qualities follow from perseverance. And so without perseverance, it will be very hard to achieve anything. Without perseverance, it will be hard to develop any higher realizations and higher goals. So perseverance is very important inner quality that need to be practiced and developed. And so this morning we talk about the obstacles to develop the perseverance. And then, so we talk about the obstacles, the three types of laziness or that doesn't inspire us to engage in the virtues, and then how we can overcome them through certain practice meditations. And now we'll discuss and talk about some of the conducive conditions to develop the joyfulness or the enthusiasm in our practice and in our virtues. Like everything else, you have to overcome the obstacle and you have to create the conducive conditions. And when obstacle is gone and when conducive conditions come together, then you can achieve or accomplish whatever you are trying to achieve and accomplish. And same with all the different practices and realizations, and same here also with the perseverance here. And again, Shantideva explains, and also many others scriptures explain 4 types of conducive conditions to develop that kind of perseverance. And one of them is we need to develop the aspirations towards virtues and to our practice. If you have the aspirations, then it will give you more enthusiasm, more energy, more joyfulness in your practice, in your virtues. If you don't have any aspirations, then it will be hard. Then it will be really kind of forcing yourself. When there's inspiration, you don't have to force yourself. you know. Yeah, for example, if you have to do certain kind of exercise, if you don't have the inspirations, then even the doctor tell you you have to do those exercise, you know. Either someone has to drag you, or you have to drag it, complaining, I wish I don't have to do, you know. I don't believe that doctor, what he says, I wish that the doctor doesn't say that, or maybe he was wrong, So, because you have no inspirations, it's a drag. But if you have the inspirations, the doctor doesn't have to tell, you just enjoy it, you just go and do it because there's the inspirations. And so then what you are trying to do, you enjoy it. And because there's an inspiration, there is the strong kind of the desire and the inspirations. And in order to have that kind of inspirations, we need to reflect, contemplate, and understand the benefit of the practice, the benefit of the virtues. The more you are able to realize and understand the benefit, the good outcome of that practice of virtues, the more inspirations it gives you. The less you understand the benefit of that practice and virtues, the less inspiration there is to develop, to actualize, So then, in order to develop and in order to have that inspirations, then we need to, whatever practice, whatever virtues that we are trying to do, we need to do more research, more analyze, and find what are all the benefit of that practice, and how that practice affect positively in whatever way it affect. So the more you understand that, the more you have inspirations. And when you have more inspiration, then that will give you the perseverance that we are trying to develop, the joyfulness of practice without having to drag yourself, Otherwise, it would be like trying to make a dog or a cat or a horse, trying to force them to drink when they don't feel like drinking, You can put them on the water and push, but they will not drink. And sometimes I think the practice becomes a little bit like that. Your body is kind of forcing you to do it, but your mind is not there. Your mind said, no, I don't want to, I just want to relax. Watch a TV or whatever, or, but then you drag your body, So then there is no harmony in your body and mind. And so that is one of the reasons why we don't have that that kind of delight and joy. And so that is the thing. The more you do the research and more analyze, then the more you find benefit, the more it will inspire you, the more inspirations. And so that, and the other conditions is to have a more kind of steady mind. So that we can have continuity in your practice, in your virtues, whatever you're trying to do. When you don't have that steady mind, one day you do 3 hours of meditations, and then for a week you don't do anything. Or for couple of days you are inspired and you do a lot of practice, meditation, studies for a couple of days, and then for a month, you just totally kind of, because our mind is not steady, you know. And then, you know, then the inspiration, you lose the inspirations. And then after 2-3 months, you started to build up. And then you get some inspirations and you continue to practice, meditate, whatever, for a certain level. And then again, after some time, you know, you feel, oh, I'm too busy or I'm too tired and this, and we have all excuse you kind of, we skip one day and we skip 2 days, 3 days, and then slowly you lose the inspiration, the desire, the aspirations, and then for a while, again we have to rebuild it. Again we build. So, you know, so therefore we never be able to build good because our mind is unstable or unsteady. So, as many of the teachers and in many teachings advise, you should have a steady mind and perseverance when you are practicing, like a running of the river all the time, you know, continues all the time. Whatever practice we try to do, you know, one of the things that I always kind of suggest is the practice can be short, but continuity is important. It is long, short, but continuity is important to have a better result. Otherwise, even you do a lot of practice for a certain time and then you give up practice for not doing for a long time, then you can't see a good result. Again, and when you started to see some result, even if it's a very tiny, small result, it gives you more inspirations. Do you get it? When you see some small result, it gives you more inspirations, more confidence in your practice, and that give you more delight in your practice. When you don't see the result, small result, then it is not so encouraging and it doesn't give you so much inspirations. And because you don't have that inspirations, and then, but in order to see some result, the continuity is important. Continuity. And that is where the steady mind comes, you know, the steady mind comes to be able to, no matter how much busy, no matter how much we are tired or not tired, to be able to keep that practice continuity and not skipping it and not having a excuse to skip it, but trying to keep that practice continuity. And of course, some days the practice is better, some days not so good, you know, because of our body, because of our mind, because of the situation that time. Even when you are trying to practice something, because of what happened, something's bothering you, so you can't focus fully. Some other days you can focus well. That is okay, you know. Our practice some days go better than other days. But that shouldn't, even when the practice is not so great, still you continue to do the practice. You know, and as we keep that continuity with that steady mind, then with that, then you become more familiar with the practice because you have been doing so often and very all the time. So then it requires less and less effort. Less effort, you enjoy more. It requires more effort, you enjoy less because it becomes tiring. And so then again, less effort give you more joyfulness in your practice, the effortlessness. Less effort gives you more joyfulness. And then again, that helps the perseverance. Otherwise, like certain practice, because we keep on doing for a certain long time, and that familiarity, we are starting to get good at it and require less effort. And for whatever something happens in our life and we skip, and then for months or maybe years, we stop the practice. And then when you try to go back again, it's like almost like restarting. Again, it requires a lot of effort, a lot of practice. But if we have kept that continuity, even if it's a short, then you don't have to go through that again, kind of all the effort again to rebuild again, and then that is why the steady mind, the continuity, that is one of the another conducive conditions for the perseverance. And then another factors is joyfulness in your practice. How to bring joyfulness in your practice, whatever different form of practice that you do. How to make it joyful. And that sometimes we have to find our own way to do with that. And that is not only with our Dharma practice and the virtues, everything that we do in our life, certain things you have to do. And so while you have to do it, why make it fun? Why not make it joyful? And so in order to make it fun and joyful, what can I do? And so you have to figure out, figure out how can I make this, which I have to do anyway, every day. And so if I can make it fun and more joyful, then it doesn't become a burden. Otherwise, it becomes like a burden. We do it because we need to do it, or we have to do it, not because we enjoy doing it. And we should be able to do the practice not because I need to do it, I have to do it because I enjoy doing it. When we reach that point, nobody can stop you from doing your practice. When you enjoy doing that, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you from doing practice. Because it's like everything in our life, something you enjoy doing, it's hard to stop from doing that, whatever you are enjoying doing in that. You make every effort to do that because you don't want to miss, you want to, because you enjoy doing that. You have no excuse. You have every excuse to skip other things and to go and do that. But you have no excuse not to do that. Imagine when practice becomes like that. At the moment, it's the other way around, we have all the excuse not to practice. And so that is where, and one of the suggestion, advice I always give is, of course, there are many different meditation, different practice, and there are certain guidelines, certain way of doing certain practice meditations. But sometimes for certain individual, they might not be able to connect very well with that kind of structures and that kind of outlines, and maybe they might have some struggles with that. And when you struggle is then there is less enjoyment, So one of the things I say is, while you are not losing the essence of that practice, you keep the main essence of that practice, but you can kind of be creative around it to make it less struggle and more enjoyable, And I think that is one of the key to kind of make your practice more enjoyable, is to find a way to kind of be more creative around the practice that suits your minds, that connect with your mind without the struggle, but without losing the essence of the practice. Because sometimes, of course, if we try to become too creative and by losing the essence, then it doesn't serve the purpose again. Then, you have to keep the essence of the practice, but in terms of, the way it is done to a certain degree, then you can be creative and kind of make your own that is more suitable to your mind, and less struggles in terms of that, and so thereby it become more struggle and more enjoyable. And when your practice become more enjoyable because of, and I have noticed, sometimes the changes doesn't need to be big changes. Very tiny changes, small changes can make a huge difference, whether you are able to feel connected with that practice or not. Sometimes it requires very tiny changes here, here and there. And before you were struggling and now you connected, and then you have no more struggle. And there is a more joy in that, So bringing that joyfulness is another factors for the perseverance here. That's the third factor, conditions. And the fourth one is resting and relaxing. And what it means is, when we are practicing, and when we are meditating, sometimes our body and mind needs some rest. When body and mind require rest, realizing that, recognizing that, knowing that, and trying to relax and rest is important, instead of pushing all the time. And finally, you break down physically, emotionally, mentally. Sometimes we break down body, sometimes we break down mentally, sometimes we break down both of them because we push too much. And we didn't kind of step it back and trying to slow it down, relax when it is needed. That is another important factors. Otherwise, like everything else, we might feel like being a burnout, We might be burned out with trying to help others. We might be burned out trying to practice. We might be burned out with doing different things because we didn't know how to balance by taking care of ourselves when we need it, to take it easy, relax, and rest. Sometimes we need the physical relax, resting, slowing down. Sometimes we need mental rest, mental slow down. Sometimes we need both of them. So when we are practicing, it's important, because sometimes what I see, and I see especially with the Westerners, when they come to the teachings or when they meet the Dharma, and then something that connects with them, there's something they have been looking, and then it connects with them, inspire them, and then they just jump into it, and they do too much. And then they get burned out, break down. Then you never see them again. Then you never see them again. And I always have to say, slow it down. Don't rush. Slow it down. Take it easy. Don't rush. Because they feel like they found something that they were looking at, something they connect. So then they want to do everything. They want to run after every teaching. They want to run after every practice. And all of that, they do too much. And after some time, they get burned out. And then once they get burned out, maybe just even someone saying, would you like to go teaching? It make them sick, maybe. Just hearing that, I see even also, not only, of course, practice as well as in service, Also in service, people who do service, non-profit, charity, and different things, They are very inspired and they want to give, they want to do, but then sometimes they don't know how to take it easy and how to relax and how to rest when they need it, And when you don't do that, then you burn out, and then there's no more enjoyment in what you are trying to do, When you are burned out in whatever you are trying to do, then so that is one of the things, and I think maybe in the West, people are driven by some kind of accomplishment very strongly, achiever. They are very much achiever. So even when they come to practice, they want to achieve this and that and quickly and all of that. So therefore, they push themselves too hard. Maybe too much high expectation, what they want to achieve. And with that, then they push themselves too much and not being able to balance and relax and so then so that is and that kind of qualities, that kind of I think practice qualities, I think is important, not only in our Dharma practice, I think in everyday life, whatever you do, to be able to balance that is important. In long term, it is healthy for yourself and for the family and for the organizations, so that you can continue to give for long term. Otherwise, you get burnout because you tried to do too much at the very beginning. Then after some time, you don't want to do anything anymore. After what you have experienced with that burnout, then you can't give anymore. You can't help anymore, So if we want to help and give more and benefit more, also we have to be skillful and know ourselves, our body, our mind, and being compassionate with ourselves, And when it needed a break, when it needs a break, our body needs a break, our mind needs a break. When it needs a break, to slow it down, to relax, to rest, we have to give that. We have to give that. Uh, So these are the four conditional factors for the perseverance. So this morning we talked about the obstacles, and now we spoke about the four conditional factors that lead to joyfulness and perseverance in our practice and virtues. And so when we work with each of them, then perseverance will be developed and increase and improve more and more. Normally when we think of perseverance, it feels like putting a lot of effort, But once you have that joyfulness, you don't have to put effort, Once you have that joyfulness, then it's no more effort, So with that, then in terms of perseverance, like other practices, in many scriptures, there's talk about three types of perseverance. And one of the perseverance they talk about is like armor like perseverance. Armor like when you go to the war that you wear to protect yourself. So so that is first perseverance. And that is, when we engage in any virtues, any practice, mentally preparing ourselves for the wars. Mentally preparing for the wars. Because we have mentally prepared for the wars, so that is like wearing the armor. So even when you face obstacles, challenges, you will not feel so bad. You wouldn't feel it as obstacles because mentally prepared, you're much worse than that. And then when you say, oh, that is much more lighter than what I thought, or that isn't a big problem than what I thought, that is not a big issue. But if we have not prepared for the worst, even you face a very small challenges, then it look like it's a big challenge. Because mentally you are not prepared. You are not prepared for that. Whether that anything become a big obstacles or not in our life is all about how much we are prepared for that. If someone is prepared well, it's not such a big obstacles. Unprepared, then it can be a big obstacles. So whether it's a big obstacle or not, or a small obstacle, is not the obstacle itself, is not the situation itself, is the individuals who deal and relate with that, how they feel about it. And how they feel about it is depend on their state of mind. For someone, that can be nothing. What do you mean this is a difficult challenge? And for someone, oh, this is the biggest challenge in my life. So it is not the situation, the event itself, is the mental state, the ability of the other person, the persons who is facing that situation to deal with that. And a lot of time we can see, you can observe, you can analyze, you can check it out, you know, when we are mentally prepared for much more worse, and then when things are bad but it's not as worse, you can deal with much easiness. And therefore, as it is said in you know, Guru Yoga, Lama Chopa, there is one verse, it comes to perseverance. There's please bless me. Please bless me to complete the practice of perfection of perseverance without losing the compassions. Even if I have to be in the effigy naras or the hell beings for eons and eons, for the sake of one sentient beings. That is how the Bodhisattvas train. They train their mind that in order to help other sentient beings, even to help one sentient beings, in order to help one sentient being, even if I have to remain in the most intense suffering, not just for days, weeks, one lifetime, eons and eons, may I never give up. May I never lose the compassion to help that person. And through that, may I be able to perfect the practice of perseverance. Such is that how the Bodhisattvas, they train their mind. You know, that will be the most worst scenario, you know, in order to help one sentient beings to remain in a hell beings, worse hell realm, eons and eons, in order to help just one sentient beings. You know. So then in order to help 10 sentient beings, if the Bodhisattva has to be in hell realm, they will be happy. I was willing for one sentient being for that much. And for 10, 100, oh, great. I was willing for eons and eons to be there. I just have to remain only 100 eons. Oh, that is a surprise. Nice. That is how our mind, you know, our mind works. You know, that's how our mind works. You know, there is a maybe, you know, let's say when I'm going hiking, then there is a, you know, maybe some kind of weather forecast saying there will be a thunder and there will be a snow or hail. There is possible of that. So you go there with that kind of preparation mentally. You could get in the storm and all this that, and then, you know, you get rains, but not hails and big thunders, and you discomfort. You're maybe, you know, depending on how much you are prepared, you know, you are wet and all of that, but still you think, you know, oh, it wasn't as bad as I expected. So it becomes bother you so much. Do you get it? It didn't bother you so much because you were expecting much more than that. So it wasn't a, oh, it's a little bit uncomfortable, a little discomfort, but not a big deal. And I was ready for it, you know. On the other hand, you know, I go to hiking, I'm thinking the weather forecast is going to be sunny, no problem, and mentally not prepared, physically not prepared, and then even some showers of rain, it can become a very unbearable. It can become a much more unbearable and much more miserable. And because we are not, it's all about, a lot of time is about how mentally and of course physically, especially mentally, how prepared we are. And so in these cases, is kind of mentally being prepared for the worst things, worst in our practice, prepare for all the worst obstacles, challenges, hardships. Is important because sometimes when we engage into practice, we expect everything to be perfect, no obstacles. Oh, because I'm doing more practice, therefore I must be purifying, I must be accumulating merit, so therefore I must be having less obstacles. And then suddenly some obstacle comes and you say, what is happening here? I'm supposed to have less obstacles. And now I'm having more obstacles. Maybe I shouldn't practice. Maybe my practice is bringing me more obstacles. That can become a real obstacle to your practice. We face some challenges, whether it's physical, external, emotional, and then, because you're not expecting that. You are expecting something else. But on other hand, if your mind is prepared, when you are on the path, when you are walking, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be a hardship. And I'm ready for that. I'm willing to go through that hardship. I'm willing to go through that kind of obstacles, that kind of difficulty in order to be on the path, in order to complete the path. And so when you are mentally kind of prepare yourself that way, then even when you face some obstacle here and there, then that didn't become obstacles, that wouldn't deter you from practicing, that wouldn't make you give up the practice. So that is the more like perseverance, and then the other two perseverance are similar, like the moral discipline, the perseverance of engaging in virtues, the perseverance of helping and benefiting other sentient beings. So basically, when we are trying to do any virtues, any kind of practice, whatever virtues, whatever practice we are trying to do, trying to bring the perseverance, joyfulness, and perseverance in that practice. And then when you are trying to help and benefit others, while we are trying to help and benefit others, we try to bring the joyfulness and perseverance in doing that. So instead of feeling, sometime where we feel like we don't have joyfulness, but we feel like, what was the compulsory to do that, or responsibility. I have to do this because this is my responsibility. Do you get it? Not necessarily because you enjoy doing that. Whether it's taking care of our parent or our, our partners, children's, our pets, or other sentient beings, wherever we are trying to help and benefit. We just do it because we feel like it is our responsibility. But not necessarily there is a joy in that, And a lot of time, even when you're trying to help someone, when you don't have that joyfulness, then slowly it can turn into resentment. Do you get it? You try to help, but because you don't enjoy doing that, and slowly, it becomes resentment. And then later, we have a very bad feeling, negative feeling. So when you bring the perseverance in that, then while you are trying to be helpful, beneficial, there is joyfulness in doing that. And then when there is joyfulness, then it will never turn into resentment. It will never become a resentment. When you don't enjoy it and you feel like you have to do it, then that can change into a resentment, So these are the three types of the perseverance. So with that, maybe we kind of complete the perseverance. And the next, the fifth one is meditative concentrations. So that one is to be able to having a certain control over your mind, So wherever you direct your mind to whatever object you direct, so that you can direct wherever you want to direct, and to be able to direct wherever you want, and to be able to keep with that object as much as you want, with total focus, with total attentions, without any distractions, without any, so so when you have a perseverance, then definitely that will help us to develop that kind of meditative concentrations, easily. Because when you're trying to meditate, as I mentioned, I think the first day, yesterday at the very beginning, when you have joyfulness in your meditations, then you didn't have any problem of meditating for a long time, many sessions. And when you are able to meditate long time, many sessions, you are able to have better results in your meditations. And so you will be able to achieve, and so that is how, again, each practice helps the next practice. And so, of course, we can achieve meditative concentrations by using any objects of our meditations. In terms of the object of our meditations, it can be external objects, it can be internal objects, it can be any kind of image in your mind, image of flowers, image of the Buddha, or any image, or you can develop that by focusing on your breath, or by focusing on your nature of mind, looking at the nature of your mind, or looking at many different states of minds, so in terms of that, one can develop that by using whatever object that that is suitable for one's mind and one's meditations. For certain people, certain objects are more suitable. They can focus better on certain objects than others. But whatever object that you choose to take as object of meditations to develop that meditative concentrations, the purpose is to develop that kind of meditative concentrations. So we try to develop that meditative concentration by choosing one object until you develop that concentrations. So we don't change too much objects when you are trying to develop that. Because if you try to change too much objects, then you cannot find the stability, But once you have achieved the concentrations, meditative concentration, by using one object, then you can direct any object you want. Once you have achieved that, it's like you are learning to drive a car, one car, okay? Instead of trying to change too many cars. and you learn with that car how to drive well. And once you know how to drive, then you can drive any other cars easily. It's more simple. But at the very beginning, you need to depend on what to do to be good at that. And same with the meditations, you try to achieve. If you are specifically trying to develop that kind of karma abiding meditative concentration, then it is we try to rely on one object. And in terms of the, again, like as I mentioned with all other practice, there are the obstacles and there are the conducive conditions to develop that meditative concentrations. The obstacles are, of course, there is external, internal obstacles, and we talk about more internal obstacles. Is two things. One is distractions, where your mind started to wander off, from the object, and when you lose the objects, your mind wander off, your mind escape, run away, your body is there, your mind is traveling all over the world, your body is there and someone's thinking, oh, he's meditating, and he's meditating so well, you're not moving at all, but your mind is moving everywhere, all over the world, travel all over the world. There is a story about one Lama, highly realized Lama in terms of his spiritual realizations, but outside he's kind of like crazy person, he showed that aspect, I forgot the name, not Gorajam, but at the time of fifth Dalai Lama, and he was good friend of fifth Dalai Lama, and he had also some kind of clairvoyance to see the minds, and he's challenging. He has from inside, he has very high respect to the fifth Dalai Lama, but outside he showed disrespect. A lot of people think he's disrespectful, but inside he has a strong devotion and high. So there are many stories about that, But one time, Dalai Lama was meditating, and then and then he showed up after some time, and then he says Dalai Lama was on retreat, the fifth Dalai Lama, and he came and he said, I want to go and see the Dalai Lama, and then Dalai Lama's attendant said, no, he's in retreat. You can't go and see. And he said, no, he's not retreat. He was in the Lhasa town. He's not in retreat. He's in Lhasa town. But still, they didn't allow him. They didn't allow him the attendance. Later, they told fifth Dalai Lama, and then he said, yeah. While I was retreat, my mind went to the Lhasa. So he knew that. So that is why he was saying, he's not in a retreat, he's in the Lhasa. And so even though we are on the cushion, body is in cushion, and when the body is in the retreat, but our mind is all over the world, that is the distractions, So that is one of the main obstacles to develop that kind of meditative concentrations. The other obstacles is we use the word laxity, or maybe singing mind, little bit dull mind, So even though you might be able to focus on the objects and you are not being distracted, you are not distracted from the objects. Your mind is still there, but there's no clarity of the objects. There's no clarity in your mind, the subject mind of the objects. So when there's no clarity, then again, that is another obstacles. in order to have that true meditative concentration, the quality you need in that um, concentration is steady. So your mind is very stable, steady with the objects, so that it's not running away, distracted. Another quality is that it need to be, there need to be clarity in the mind in relation to the subjects. There need to be clarity. And then on top of that, then there need to be some kind of intensity or alertness, you know. Sometimes there is stability, clarity, stable, you know, stability, and also clarity, but then there is no strong alertness or intensity. And so then if it's not that, then also again, you cannot achieve, you know, unmistaken meditative concentration. And to achieve that, so these are the obstacles that you need to overcome in order to develop the meditative concentrations. In terms of the conducive conditions that we need to, the tool that we need to develop, and that is the mindfulness and introspection mind. Mindfulness and introspection mind. So introspection mind is time to time analyzing whether your mind is there or not, whether your mind is somewhere else or not, you know. Because if you don't have that, sometimes even we're off the object, we are not even aware, you know. You are trying to meditate, but your mind is somewhere else, and you are not even aware you are somewhere else. So introspection mind checks time to time, oh, whether your mind is with the object or not, whether you are distracted or not, whether there is clarity or not, whether you are in, whether your mind is following either distractions or laxity or not, you know. So checking that mind, and so time to time we check that, and after checking that, when you realize, oh, my mind is distracted, or my mind is, you know, following the laxity, or there is dullness or sinking, you recognize that, and through the mindfulness, you bring back that object, the mind back to the objects. With this introspection, you recognize what is happening, and if it is distracted or falling in laxity, then your mindfulness, with the rope of your mindfulness, it pull back the mind to the objects and tie to the objects. And then mindfulness, the job of mindfulness is to tie your mind to the object. That is what mindfulness, to keep your mind to the objects. The introspection mind is checking whether you are still focused on the object or not. So that, and so again, those are the two of the main tools that we need to apply when we are trying to develop meditative concentrations. You know, these two tools we need to develop and we need to apply in our meditations in order to have a better meditations, better meditation, and better concentration, better attentions, you know. The stronger our mindfulness, the stronger our introspection mind, the more better our meditation practice becomes. You know? So by applying the introspections, by applying mindfulness introspections, and by overcoming the obstacles, the distractions, and the laxity, then, you know, we go through the 9 stages of meditations and overcoming the obstacles by applying and those tools And then after some time, through the 9 stages of meditation, then you will be able to focus and concentrate on whatever object that you, without any effort. At the 8 stages, you require still a little bit effort at the very beginning of the session, but you require small effort at the very beginning of your sessions. Then after that, then you don't require any effort during the all sessions. But when you reach the 9 stages, then from the very beginning, you don't require any effort. You just meditate and you are into it without any effort, effortlessly. You just go in that meditation and you are deep into that meditations for hours and hours. And that make your mind very light and flexible. And with that kind of your mind becoming very, very light and flexible, because normally our mind is not so flexible, not so light, it's kind of heavy and very heavy, it doesn't, you can't kind of direct anywhere you want, it's like, it requires a lot of effort to pull this way or that way, wherever you want to pull it. But once that happens, then it becomes extremely light and flexible. And with that kind of flexibility and lightness in your mind, then, it affects your wind energy in your body. And through that wind energy in your body, then it affects your body. Then your body becomes more also flexible, more lighter. And with that kind of more lighter and more flexibility in your body as well, then that give you a lot of blissful sensations, in your body. And that bodily sensations lead to mental blissfulness. And so, and then, then one can achieve what we call, samadhi, shamatha, karma abiding, and meditative concentration that we're trying to develop. So when we are able to achieve that, when you are able to achieve that kind of karma abiding or meditative concentrations, so you can go deep in meditations for hours and hours without any distractions, without any thoughts arising. So when you are in that deep meditations, delusion doesn't arise, because delusion are thoughts. Anger is thought, attachment is thought, jealousy is thought, all of them. So when you are deep meditation in that, then so it does kind of reduce the delusions in that way. It stops from manifesting it. One of the example, the good example would be the water, with the dirt in a glass, So when you are holding, you are shaking, then you see the dirts, the delusion there. So you stop shaking it. You put there and you stop shaking it, and all the dirt will dissolve to the very bottom of the water. Then on surface, on the top, you see the clarity of the water. The dirt not disturbing it. The dirt is not disturbing the clarity of the water on the top. So all the delusion are down, sink down there. So it is not manifesting. But it is still there. Once you start to shake it, then again you can see the dirt in the water. So that is not the final solutions. So when you are not in deep meditations, when you are engaged in the worldly, when you are out of that deep meditations, and when you engage in other things, then when certain cause and condition arises, then that can give kind of rise for the delusion to arise again, because you haven't cleared the dirt from the very bottom of it. And so to clear all the delusion from the very bottom of it, you need the wisdom. You need the wisdom. And that is the sixth one. And that's the six perfections. So, and in order to develop that wisdom, once we have that meditative concentration, then it becomes easy to develop the wisdom. Because your mind is so focused, without distractions. So if you use that mind to any practice, your practice becomes very strong, effective, easy to actualize. Because at the moment, when you are trying to practice, even we try to practice 2-3 hours, a lot of time, our mind is distracted, not fully there, But when you have that single point of concentrations, then you are fully there. So then 1 minute of meditation at that time become more powerful than 2 hours meditation now, or maybe 1 day meditation now, where your mind is not fully into the meditation, into the practice. And so therefore, then, that meditative concentration become extremely powerful tools to develop that wisdom. And so wisdom here, even though there are so many wisdom, so many different kind of wisdom, there are billions of ignorance in us. Do you think so? Billions, maybe more than billion, trillion, who knows, Even with one object, I have so much delusion with one object. With ignorance about this cup, I can have so many ignorance about this cup, about so many things about that. So each time we clear each of those ignorance, we develop new wisdom, new understanding, new wisdom, So you can understand how many wisdom there are as well, But here we are talking about particular main wisdom, the wisdom of perceiving or realizing the reality or the true nature of your mind, yourself, and all phenomena. So the reason why ourselves and others experience problems, sufferings, is due to our own delusions, due to our karma and our delusions, our actions and our delusions. And those delusions arises due to fundamental ignorance, So the fundamental ignorance is the root of all other delusions, such as attachments, anger. And through that anger and attachment, then many other delusion arises, And through that, then our mind is disturbed, as well as we engage in the, unwholesome actions and bring more pain and suffering to oneself and others. So that is how we get in problems, suffering and pain. And so if we try to see what is that fundamental ignorance, what is that fundamental ignorance, is, and we call this fundamental ignorance because that is the very root of all the problems, all the delusions. Some of other ignorance are not fundamental. It is ignorance, but it's not the main cause of all our problems. It's not the main cause of all our sufferings, But this one is, and so that is the mind that is mistakenly grasping ourself, our mind, and all phenomena to be, truly or inherent existence. And again, if we see when certain objects, when we have any kind of appearance of any objects, whether you think of yourself, when you think me or I or self, or when you think of your mind or your body, or when you think of someone else, or when we think of any object, how does those objects appear to our mind? Does it appear, those objects, as real, as real from its own side, objectively, by its own power, by its own entity, as it is, So first there is that appearance. Not only there is that appearance, then that ignorance grasps, perceive as it appears. Because sometimes there is some appearance and we don't believe that appearance. For example, magicians doing some magic trick. There is appearance, but we don't believe that because we know it is a trick. We don't believe what we see. Even though he is creating something, some kind of thing, but we know that it's a trick. So there is a trick, so there's not really that things happening. For example, sometimes, they cut the whole body into pieces, a person's, in a magician, and then it cuts into pieces, and then they bring together, So even though from what you see is really cutting, we see that, but at the same time, that is the appearance, what we see it, but we don't believe that because we know it is some kind of trick, even though we don't know how the trick is done, what is the trick, but we know that, and so we don't grasp, apprehend, and perceive as we see it. In this case, the object appear, real from its own side as it is, and then not only it appear, then our mind perceive and hold or grasp that way. And that is the fundamental ignorance, Because I believe, or my mind, the ignorance, perceive and believe there is real I from its own side, real I. So then I hold on that very tightly, that I, that me. On the basis of holding that I, me very tightly on that, then there is, my this, my that. And also there is, because of that, then there's sense of self-important, I'm special. On the basis of that, grasping that me or self is so real. And because I'm grasping and holding on that so real, so then, so then I cherish that, feel that it is a special, important, and then I'm trying to cherish. And so you cherish that very strongly. And then, on the basis of that, because you cherish so strongly about that self, then you need, you cherish everything that you think that it will bring happiness to this self. And then you start to get attachment to those. And anything you believe that is obstacle for the happiness of this self, then you started to dislike and have aversions. So anything we believe that will give the self happiness and cause of happiness, we get attached to them, grasping to them. Anything we believe that is creating an obstacle for the happiness of this self, then we started to have aversion, dislike, and anger. And that starts because there's strong sense of strongly cherishing or attachment to that self. And that attachment and strong grasping to attachment or overly cherishing to self arises because there's sense of real I, self by itself. And so that's where it comes. That is how fundamental ignorance. It is like a magician's creating through his magic, transforming something very ugly and very unattractive and unpleasant into a very attractive, very beautiful object, okay, through his magic, okay? Through his trick, magic, something which is kind of at the very beginning, you think when you see it, that object, it is disgusting, something disgusting, something smelling, disgusting that you want to throw it. And then with his magic trick, he turned into something beautiful, nice smell, and beautiful objects. So there is appearance of that, but you don't believe that, oh, that object is a disgusting object. He just tricked me with his magic. On the other hand, if you don't know that trick, even though that object might be very disgusting, you think it is so beautiful and so nice, and you get attached to it. Because you don't know it's a trick. You don't know because it's just a trick. Because you don't know the reality, what the real object is. You believe the appearance. You believe the appearance without really knowing the reality of that object. True reality of that object, what that really was. Because we just believe the appearance. On the base of believing that appearance, then we started to, grasp and get attached to it. But if you really understand that, then the object before that has been transformed through trick, then you wouldn't be so attached. And similarly, like that is ignorance. That ignorance is like a magician's that trick us with those kind of appearance. And we believe those appearance, So the wisdom is the one that relies the reality, just like that you saw before that trick is done, the object. And so therefore, now the appearance cannot fool you because of the wisdom, understanding. And so, but when we analyze objects, the self, our mind, our body, and all other phenomena, There's no objects that really exist, truly real from its own side, by its own side, And so therefore, that kind of appearance and that kind of grasping is totally mistaken, because that is not how the objects exist in reality. And that wisdom relies on that reality of, the empty of inherently or truly existence of the objects is that wisdom that help us to not to be tricked, deceived by that ignorance and appearance. At the moment, we are being deceived by the appearance. We are being deceived by the appearance. That appearance is created by the ignorance and the imprint of the ignorance. And so then that imprint and the ignorance deceive us by creating that kind of appearance. When we have that wisdom, then, we know even though things appear that way, but it's not like that. With the wisdom, you have been able to understood what is the reality from the appearance. And so then you don't get deceived by the appearance. Even though you still have that appearance, but you don't believe that. So you don't get caught up in that. So, when we're attached to something, there is appearance, the object of that attachment as being really, really beneficial or beautiful or pleasant or attractive, whatever quality we see it as real from its side, its own side, and that's why we are attached to it. But then we realize, oh, that is just the appearance. That's just the appearance. That is not how the real thing are. So then you don't get deceived by the appearance. When someone's appear, very, or any objects, very unpleasant, very bad, very evil, very negative from every side, then again, we know, oh, even though it appeared to me that way, but it's again just a deceit. It's just an appearance. It's just an appearance. So then you don't get caught up in that appearance. So then when we don't get caught up in that appearance, then we don't become so, so strongly disliking, having aversions, and so much anger, hatred, whatever, based on appearance. At the moment, a lot of our emotion response based on appearance. Appearance, what we hear, based on what we see, based on what we hear, and all of them mostly based on the appearance. So once we have been able to develop that wisdom, then it goes to the very root of all the delusion, that fundamental ignorance. And once we have been able to overcome the fundamental ignorance, then we will overcome the delusions. Once we overcome the delusions, then we overcome the suffering and problems, and so that is the wisdom. So with that, I think maybe we complete here today. On a good note. So we still have maybe 5 minutes. So if anyone has any questions or any kind of comment, anything to share, you are most welcome. Otherwise, we do the dedications. So anyway, so that we can do the dedications. And again, thank you for all of you for making the effort to join all classes. Of course, I know it is a lot to attend every classes, and some of you attend all of them, some of you attend most of them weekends. So, and I hope that there was something for you to go back and to reflect, contemplate, to give more thought on that. And if you find anything helpful after giving more thought on those, trying to apply, even though we might not be able to apply everything, but at least trying to apply some of them to start with, that you feel that might be helpful, beneficial, and so then if you do that, then us coming together has become a meaningful, beneficial, that can have a long-lasting effect, positive effect, if we can apply even very small of that. So, okay, thank you. So then dedications. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the suffering of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by the depressions. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never acquire again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each others. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And we can also dedicate for once and all sentient beings to cultivate bodhicitta mind and wisdom. And those who have already actualized, not to diminish, but increase more and more. And through the bodhicitta and wisdom, may we be able to achieve fully enlightenment as soon as possible and liberate all sentient beings from the suffering and cause of suffering. And may His Holiness Lama Sabarambach and all the holy beings have a long, healthy life. And may we be able to follow their perfect example like them on the path. And may all their wishes and noble deeds be fulfilled without any obstacles. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
And on behalf of Lama Yeshe House, I'd like to offer this virtual kata and to request that you come back and be with us again. You're such a special part of the path of so many of us, and it's so wonderful to have had so much time with you. And maybe, hopefully, we'll meet next time face to face again.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope that by the end of this year, things will be maybe better. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, everyone.
Much.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Definitely.
Okay, Jackie, you and me, kid. Have a good day.